Hey everybody, it's me again. And this Corona thing got me making a bunch of custom cards for Unicorn because making cards is fun, and I think Unicorn needs some. Um, because we have a bunch of cool uh, other themes that are not fully explored or perhaps a bit weak currently. And then suddenly, let's see, it was Patch on the Discord server made a Magic Set Editor mod and enabled one to make LCG cards in Magic Set Editor. And I was like, so I sat down today and neglected my schoolwork for about 2 hours ish and made a sub-theme booster. And the idea behind this is to, as I said, explore the sub-themes of a clan that have yet to be explored, or maybe give them a bit of a boost when the main theme in the clan is so much more prevalent than the other themes. Like, for example, with Unicorn, where our current theme is military, throw bodies into a conflict, and cavalry. But we also have these other super interesting themes, like the E-Day, who are all about the trade and keeping the clan afloat, doing all this Gaijin dishonorable acts stuff. And we also have the Yuchi, the Suganya, who are their own kind of magicians, their own kind of Suganyas, and also the Death Priests, the Moto Death Priests, that care about death, and the Discord pile, which is a theme that we haven't seen at all yet in Alpha Var, the new Alpha Var for Unicorn. So those are two of the themes that I wanted to explore. I've made most of the cards by myself. There are some, and I'll point them out if I remember. Apologies if I don't remember. There are some cards that are made by people in the Discord, Unicorn Discord. So I'll try to point those out because those are one of the reasons that motivated me to do this. So I've made one stronghold as the one you see, and you're probably excited to explain why does it have 8 fates. I made one province, and I made 10 dynasty and 10 conflict cards. And I plan on either making one of these boosters for each clan on my own, or with the help of you guys, experts from every clan, to make you explore all of your clan's sub-themes, like maybe the the shrine tenders for the phoenix, or perhaps the Nezumi for the crab, or stuff like that. You get it. So let's jump straight into it. So first off, we have the stronghold, which is Shiro Ide. It's a +1 problem strength unicorn stronghold. It's the castle trait. It has 10 honor. It has it has 10 influence, and it has +8 fate per turn. Its text is: during deck building, you may not add characters with more than 2 military. What we'll do. Printed military. Oops. Skill should be, what should I say, to any of your decks. And action: bow the stronghold, give an opponent 1 fate and 1 honor, draw 1 card. So this kind of symbolizes everything about the Ide theme in this booster. It is low military, because the Ide are mostly pacifists. It is about trading. You trade a resource for another, or a resource for an effect, and giving generosity to your opponent for something in exchange. The Ide theme here is that The unicorn, they are gaijin. They're doing non-Rokugani things that are considered weird or dishonorable. They have lower honor than the opponent. And the Ide's function here is to either protect against dishonor or make it into an upside somehow. We'll get more into that with other cards. So yeah, this stronghold emphasizes all that. You, for one, have the pacifism idea here, that you can't have any of the big, great military bodies like Tetsuko, Chagatai, Shono, yeah, stuff like that in your deck. And the action ability is draw one card, get the resources for a big exchange actually. Giving your opponent one fate and one honor is not something you might want to do every turn, but it can prove useful. Also the flavor text here is a bit hidden. It's not perfect, this mod that Patch made, but it's still amazing. I still appreciate it so much, so much. And the +8 fate. That is because the idea is that this deck is gonna have, it's gonna utilize that fate not to buy characters, big military bodies, to break provinces, but instead utilize it to make trades, make favorable trades, and stuff like that. And as we've seen with Shiroshinyo, just having a bunch of extra fate is often not quite enough. So I think the +8 might be okay here, because as I said, the ability is not that strong actually. If you consider that one honor usually equals one card when you bid, and this gives your opponent a fate as well. When you go down one, so effectively you go down -2. I think it's quite balanced. It's strong, don't get me wrong. +8 every turn is strong. Yeah, enough of Shiro Idiot. Let's go to the other theme, which is Death Priests. And I didn't play the old 5R, but I think the Death Priests, as most Unicorn do, I think they're pretty cool. They are all about the Dynasty characters in the Dynasty discard pile getting removed. Which is I think that's a theme that is actually borrowed from old 5R. We'll get to the one card that started the Death Priest theme in just a second. That's a card I didn't make, but this one I did make, and it's a 3 province strength Earth. You see a tiny Earth element here. Province. It has the temple trait and action. During a conflict as this province, remove any number of characters from your Dynasty discard pile from the game. In your. So easy to just change everything here. Then, choose a participating character with print cost equal to the number of characters removed. Bow that character. Gain 1 honor. So the idea here is that you remove characters from the game, which is the Death Priest theme from back then, I think. And you get to bow a character here, which is, I think, also the effect of the old Temple of Death stronghold from old 5R, or something like that. Also, the gain 1 honor is a reference to the Honorable Dead thing that was a thing in old 5R. I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, I just slapped it on there to make it a bit more useful. It is 3 province strength though, so it's kind of easy to break if you don't have, in the early game, when you don't have that many Dynasty characters in the discard pile. It isn't that strong. You can only bow like maybe a 1 or 2 coster in the first turn if you play a Shinju Gunso, for example, but otherwise it can be quite blank actually. So I think it's strong in the late game, kind of weak in the early game. So this might need to get the no stronghold province ruling on it. We'll have to see. So those are the province and the stronghold, and also both the two themes of the two main themes of this sub-theme booster. So let's go ahead and get to the Dynasty cards. First up is Moto Death Priest. This is a card I didn't make. I don't remember who made it. I made some changes to it. I made it a 2-1 instead of a 2-2. So it's a 2 cost, 2 military 1, political 0 glory, Suganya, Death Priest. And action. During a conflict, remove a character in your discard pile from the game and choose a participating character. That character gets -X until the end of the conflict, where X is the removed character's military skill. So, this card obviously does not go very well in the Immature Idiot deck, but it can prove to be quite strong actually if you remove a, for example, Chagatai or a Minami Castle regulars, or yeah, those big military numbers. You can get someone quite low with this. And I just realized that this card is very good with Castigated. So yeah, maybe this in an Imperial Unicorn and Scorpion Imperial kill deck could be cool. And as I said, I didn't make this card, but I think it's really cool. It's a super cool card, and it kind of shows the theme. You remove a character from the discard pile from the game, and you get a benefit, which is also kind of rough for Unicorn because they play around their discard pile with cavalry reserves, of course, and stuff like that. So very cool. Next up is Venerable Death Priest. I don't think I made this either. It's a 1 cost dash 2 glory Suganya Death Priest. Interrupt. When you would play an attachment with spell or mage trait, remove a character in your discard pile from the game. Reduce the cost of that attachment by the glory of the character removed. So another very strong Death Priest effect here. Could make your attachments, your spell or mage attachments, effectively free. Although Unicorn doesn't have that many high glory characters, except for this Venerable Death Priest, it's a good synergy with itself. But yeah, a very versatile dude with the Mage thing with attachments, spells. So it has that dash military, so it's still not quite what Unicorn was. It has that only political skill. So probably won't be that useful in the conflicts where you want to play the Mage attachments because they're usually military focused. But he's more kind of a support unit. I don't think I changed anything of this card. I liked it the way it was, actually. Maybe I changed the name, I'm not sure. Well, next up is Shinyu Sadiya. I'm not very familiar with the naming conventions of marrying Gaijin into the Shinyu clan, but I just slapped Shono's family name onto Sadiya, and this is what happened. This is another card I didn't make. It is 3 cost dash 3/2 Gaijin Courtier. It's the same stat line as the old Sadiya. It also has this character's name is also counted as Sadiya Almocedo at all times. So it can't be used. You can't use both Sadiya Almocedo, I think that's her name, and Shinyu Sadiya in the same deck. More than 3 copies in total. Also has Sincerity as it had before. And reaction. Whenever a Gaijin card is played, choose 1, gain 1 fate, draw 1 card. Limit twice per phase. So this is kind of a reference to where I think Sadiya in the novel is talking about some kind of compass or like a sundial to Shono, and showing him a Gaijin technology and giving him information and knowledge, which is cards and fate, in some kind of game mechanic way. And that's the idea behind this card. You are to play these Gaijin cards and get benefits from them. And also a bit stronger than the normal one. Although she's still a dash 3 to glory, not the strongest stat line, but she has a pretty good ability, and it's only limited twice per phase. That's to remember. So you can play cards in the draw phase and in the conflict phase and the fate phase to maximize the value here. Yeah. Next up is another guy from the novel. It is Shoan, and not Yuchi Shoan. because read the novel. It's a 3-cost, 2/2/1 cavalry, Suganya, and water. Unicorn only. So it's a neutral character with unicorn only. Read the novel, it's pretty good. I don't have any art for these guys because I'm lazy. Interrupt. During a conflict, when an opponent's event targets a participating character you control, bow this character. You may choose a different target as if you had played the event. This is another card I didn't make. I changed it up a little bit to make it makes more sense, I think. So it basically references the thing that Shoan does in the novel. Read it, it's pretty good. And also, in a very fun way, protects your characters from events and redirects them at your opponent. Although it is for a pretty steep cost at bowing Shoan. So, for example, your opponent plays a bonsai, you can bow Shoan, and you get to play bonsai, effectively only going up +2, but still preventing your opponent from going up +4, because Shoan gets bowed. Another example, your opponent plays a court games, you get the court games instead. Stuff like Hurricane Punch and Void Fist, of course, doesn't work, because you probably don't have any monks. But I think there's a bunch of events that you can use this with. Like Fate Worse Than Death is, yeah, that's scary to use. Although he against Shoan. But Shoan is, of course, a dynasty character that sits on the board. It's there. Your opponent knows about it. So I don't think it's too strong, actually. I just think it's a pretty cool card. I think it's neat. And also, again, read the novel. It's pretty good. And I think it makes sense, the ability, as is. Next up is another card I didn't make. There are a lot of these, actually. It is Moto Akikazu, which I think is a guy from the old 5R. It's the 3-cost 0/0/0. He's a Suganya Death Priest. This character gets +1/+1 for every 2 characters in your Dynasty Discard pile. I think this is a bit weak. There we go. And you can rage on me in the comments for making this guy too strong, but I don't think he is. This guy gets +1/+1 for every character in your Dynasty Discard pile. And considering first turn, he's probably a 0/0. Second turn, he might be like a 2/2 or 3/3. Third turn, he can prove to be quite strong unless you have removed a bunch of characters from your discard pile. So I think he's kind of a decent stat line. Maybe peaks around 5, 6-ish, unless you go real ham, making huge. And his action is, look at the top 3 cards of your Dynasty deck, you discard any number of them, put the rest back on top in any order. So he kind of scries your Dynasty deck, and discards characters that you don't want, and then you remove them with your Death Priests, and get benefits. The action also buffs him. So yeah, I think this guy is pretty strong. He is unique, and that's a choice, a conscious choice I made, because if you have 2 of these, that can get quite insane. You know, double milling and then getting huge 3-cost bodies. So yeah, I think making him unique is a good idea. Next up is Yuchi Scholar. So now we're away from the Death Priest theme a bit and going to the Yuchi, the regular Shuganyas, the Suganya family of the Unicorn. And this one is a straight up 2/2/2/1 Suganya Water Scholar. And it has reaction whenever you play a Meishido attachment, draw a card. So just basic card advantage. You play a Meishido card, preferably on Shahai, hinting she's coming next. Or on another character, and you get to draw a card. So he's just a neat Suganya, low-cost Suganya that Unicorn desperately need. We have a bunch of good 3 costs and up in Suganya, on the Suganya trait, but in the low ranks we have stuff like Immature Wielder, and that's not quite what we want here. So it's just Scholar. Not much to say, he's just kind of decent. Comparing his stat line to other similar 2/2s, I mean 2-costers like I guess a Swordsmith and the Yasuki that are just 1 military, although their effects are stronger. That's the compensation there. I'm getting to look at 5 cards and 2 each for those types of characters. So Future Scholar. Next up is, as I said, Shahai. She doesn't have a picture because I didn't like the old art from old 5R. She is a 4-cost 2/4/1 Suganya Water, retains the stat line and traits. You may play events attached to this character. If you do, remove it from the game. What does that mean? You can't attach events to your characters? What? Oh, but you can with Shahai. Reaction after an event is played, attach it to this character. So this is another card idea that I didn't make. I made this version that's a bit clearer than the paragraph version that was the original idea. So the idea is that a reference to the story where she kind of deactivates or steals the magic seals around the capital, and in this form it's the form of events that your opponent plays, and then you can use them for yourself. So you can stack up on events, only 1 per turn though, and then you can play them against your opponent. So if your opponent plays like, I don't know, okay, let's say court games again, or Banzai, you can play them at your opponent. And the idea here is that it's an incentive for your opponent to not be reactive against you. And your opponent has to play cards beforehand. Yeah, it's to protect against the opponent's answers, which is what a proactive deck should do. So this card is kind of a pro-reactive card, I could say. Also, it has to remove it from the game clause, just so you can't cycle the same event over and over with the effect. So which is pretty cool. I like the idea. Alright, next up is a card I made. It is Ide Bantu. That's another guy from the old 5R, I think. Yes, it is. It's a 4-coster, 0/4/2, so we can play him in Shiro Ide. Look at that. He has Courtier, Cavalry, and Merchant trait because he has a horse, which is kind of controversial because Unicorn characters with a horse in their art do not have Cavalry. But this guy has a Cavalry, even though he has a horse. And he has the effect reaction. After this character commits to a conflict, in the same way as Spyglass triggers, the first card your opponent plays this conflict costs 1 extra fate for every 2 honor your opponent has more than you. So that's as you can see, very strong effect, but it has some caveats. First off, it kind of relies on you being either the defender, as then you get the first action. So you can... No wait, that doesn't make sense. Here's a reaction. It either needs you to have your opponent at very high honor. It needs your opponent to have a card that he wants to play as the first card. And it also needs to happen that your opponent doesn't play any cards before Bantu gets in the conflict, or if your opponent's first play. So for example, let's say cards like Issue a Challenge when your opponent is attacking is considered the first card of the conflict. Cards like Never Yield could be played before Bantu gets into the conflict. Cards like the one mantra, mantras. If your dragon opponent is first player and you attack with Bantu, the dragon player gets to play their mantra first before this effect. So there are some cards that work around Bantu, but overall he's very strong and can punish either a dishonor or a honor build from your opponent. So this guy is very strong, and he's unique because you don't want more than one of these effects in the game ever. And it also only works one turn in one conflict. So compare it to Guest of Honor or Master Key Satoshi if you can somehow get the ring back, or Tetsuko. And it's only for every 2 honor your opponent has more than you. So if your opponent is just 1 over, this guy is blank. If your opponent is 2 over, the first card just costs 1 extra. It only becomes kind of relevant when your opponent is at 4 or more over you. So it's a strong effect, but it has a bit of a workaround to it. Next up is also the flavor text is a reference to his old flavor text, and it's kind of fitting for the current state of the game. Next up is Dealer of Favors. 3 cost, 2, 3, 1, Courtier Merchant. Action. During a conflict in which this character is participating, give your opponent 1 fate. Ooh, that's expensive, but it's a good effect. Look at the top X cards of your conflict deck, where X is the difference in honor totals between you and your opponent. Put up to 2 of those cards into your hand and the rest on top in any order. So the idea here is that giving your opponent 1 fate is huge. It is, and the unicorn, the EDA are about trading, the trading resources for resources. So you get to look at hopefully a bunch of cards, and then pick the 2 best of them, and then scrying the rest on top. So the problem with this card is that giving your opponent fate means that you probably won't get to take the more expensive cards from the ones you draw, because you won't get to afford them anymore. But getting that card advantage can be huge. So he's kind of balanced, I think. He's very strong, but the giving your opponent 1 fate is a big deal. And I also like the flavor text, because everyone is happy. Your opponent gets a fate, I get 2 cards. Next up is Master of Reversals. I'm not sure about his name. English is my first language, but it kind of works, I think. So it's a unicorn, of course, 3 cost, 0x, 2 courtier with courtesy. And during conflicts in which you are the attacking or defending player, X is equal to the difference in honor totals between you and your opponent. So this has the same text structure as the Iron Crane Legion, except that the X is equal to the difference in honor totals. So I think this guy will usually be around maybe a 3. So he's quite weak. He has the courtesy to make up for it. But the thing is that he can get quite strong. If your opponent is like an honor running deck and you are low on honor, he could be like a 10 political skill. So he's a bit of a funny card. It's one of those cards that I think you have to test to see how good it actually is, because in some matchups it's probably just a 0, because you're playing against a mirror or a guy that always bids 5 as you bid 5. The thing there is that he could make you bid 1 to get the +5, the +4 little skill, then your opponent bids 1. So then you bid 4. Some kind of bid dials, funny honor exchange with this guy. And also the flavor text is pretty cool, I think. And that should be all the dynasty cards. So, 2 themes. Honor matters. Your opponent being superior matters. Goes with the thing that they are trying to keep the clan afloat while they're going around doing gaijin stuff. And then we have the Death Priests, which are all about dynasty discard characters, removing them from the game, or caring about how many there are in Akikazu. Alright, so let's go on to the conflict cards, and let's start with the box art for this expansion, which is Our Way. Our Way is a 1 fate event. It's a philosophy. It has action during a conflict in which you control a participating character. Until the end of the conflict, if the cost or effect of a triggered ability you control would make you lose 1 or more honor, gain 1 honor, max 1 per conflict. 3 influence, would not take responsibility for a motto. Great quote. So this is one of my favorite cards that I've ever made, just because it kind of represents the way that the Moto are. They don't really care about the Rokugani fine stuff, like courtesy or stuff like that. They want to do it their way, the Ujik way, the old way. And this represents that. Also, yeah, because Unicorn has a lot of cards that make you lose honor. We have, we play Banzai, we play Captive Audience, Unleash the Djinn. We have the Meishido cards like, what's it called? Invocation of Ash. We have Jewel of Hamasin, the one that lowers your opponent's province strength. And this card kind of helps to mitigate the honor loss from those cards. So for example, you play Banzai, you get the honor back. You play Djinn, you only pay 2 honor. It can help you stay afloat in those games where honor is very important, like the Scorpion matchup, Crab, Crane, Phoenix to some extent, Lion to some extent as well. So if there is that one conflict where you have to spend a bunch of honor, you slam Our Way, and then you're good to go. You want to do it Unicorn style, you want to do it Moto style, you do it Moto style. It does have that 1 fate, so it doesn't have it does have a restriction in that 1 fate. You also cannot use it on a defense. You have to have a participating character. You can't just use it first turn to make a 2 honor assassination on a lone character from your opponent. So this card is really cool, I think. It's one of my favorites. Our Way. So yeah, next up is Litany of Rebinding. So this is part of the Yuchi card theme, which is the Meishido attachments, the spell attachments. It is a 1 cost, 0 plus 0 plus 0. It is unique. It has attached to a Suganya control like most Meishido have, not all. Interrupt. If you're the first player, when untriggered. When a triggered ability would cancel the effect of an event you have played, cancel the effect of the triggered ability. So this is to work around cancels, to protect your big events like Cavalry Reserves. It only works on first player, like Ring of Binding, and it is a theme of the Unicorn to care about the first player token. So it can work as a repeatable cancel for cancels. Though it does cost 1 fate, it is telegraphed, it only works on Suganyas, and it's an attachment, so it can get let go if you want to for some reason. So this card is pretty cool. It protects, as I said, the proactive nature of Unicorn with some pro-reactive plays. Pretty cool. Also 4 influence, because it's meant to be played in aggressive first player decks like Unicorn, and not just as another cancel for the controlled clans. Next up, also Mature cards usually have a lot of influence, so I slapped that on there. Next up is a E-Day themed card, Method of Understanding. Technique, action. During a political conflict, give your opponent 1 honor. Look at X random cards in your opponent's hand, where X is the difference in honor totals between you and your opponent. Seeing a pattern here. Choose one of those cards to put on the bottom of your opponent's conflict deck. 0 fate cost, 2 influence. So this is part of the E-Day theme of leveraging your weakness, your honor deficiency, into something positive. You get to look at your opponent's hand and find the best card out of the ones you get to look at and get rid of it, putting it at the bottom of your opponent's deck. Hopefully getting rid of it for the whole of the game, but there are shuffle effects, of course. It's also quite interesting, I think, with the give your opponent 1 honor here, because if you're more honorable than your opponent and you play this, it works because it cares about the difference in honor totals. Say you're 16 to 14, you get to look at 2 cards, except you give your opponent 1 honor, so it's stronger when you're at low honor, because you get at even lower honor, you go from a 4 to a 3, or for example. But it gets weaker if you're more honorable than your opponent. Like you go from a 16 to a 15 and your opponent has 14, you get to look at 1 card. So it's pretty cool. As I said, they leverage the weakness of the clan into something positive. They leverage the guiding nature into something positive for the clan, is the idea. Next up is a card name I think some of you are familiar with. It's okay if you're not, because it's not a very good card. It's Expert Bartering, fixed version. It's a 1 fate event this time. Technique. During a political conflict, you may give your opponent 1 honor. Choose 2 attachments. You may only choose 1 an opponent controls if you give your opponent 1 honor. Switch places of those attachments. If you control only one of those attachments, change control of them as well. So this is basically what Expert Bartering should have been done. Trading attachments. The problem with Expert Bartering is that if you activate it, you have to play it, it's 1 fate, then you have to pay another fate to switch with your opponent, then your opponent just pays 1 fate and switches back, so it effectively does nothing. It has the other effect that you can switch around your own attachments, and this does that as well, except this one, your opponent can't just switch back. A trade is a trade, a handshake is a handshake, a deal is done. And it does cost you 1 fate as the old Expert Bartering, and it also gives you 1 honor if you want to trade attachments with your opponent. And that synergizes with the other ED cards that care about the honor deficiency, and it also weakens cards that care about honor deficiency if you're more honorable as well. It can prove quite strong. You can, for example, if your opponent has played a cloud on one of your characters and has pretty good attachment of their own, you can switch those around. Though your opponent retains control of both. It is only if you control one of those attachments that you exchange control of them. If your opponent controls both, they retain control. Is the idea. So it's a fixed version of Expert Bartering. Next up is a neutral card. What is this in a Unicorn booster? It is Honorable Dead. Dash Fate, 3 cost, Dash Fate, Fate cost 3/3/2. It's a conflict character, as you might be able to see down here. It has the Spirit trait. Action. During a conflict in which you are the attacking or defending player, if you have 3 or more characters removed from the game, put this character into play in the conflict. Remove this character from the game at the end of the conflict, max 1 per conflict. So this is to synergize kind of with the Death Priest theme of removing characters. It also enables other clans to play that theme as well. We see cards like the new Tadaka that removes characters. I think the Lion Spirit Army removes itself from the game. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now. But yeah, it could be essentially +3 buff in any conflict, or +5 if you get it honored somehow. So it's a very strong effect, but it has that caveat of having 3 or more characters removed from the game. So it's a very strong card. It's one that a lot of decks can play. It's only max 1 per conflict though, because you can't just spam these cards. That would be insane. I think it's quite strong enough as it is, as a one-off skill boost. That should be quite hard to pull off actually, because of the few removed from characters effects there are. I think Phoenix actually is the one that is best at utilizing this. I don't think the Death Priest theme is quite there to make use of this card in the way that Phoenix can, for example. But it's still pretty cool. And the flavor text is a reference to the original card that this art is from. Next up is the Jade Horse. It is a 1 fate +0/+0 attachment. It is item, Meishido, and Jade, because it's a Jade Horse. It's very pretty. Touch the Suganya control, of course. Cards you own with triggered abilities that can move 1 or more characters to a conflict gain. Action. During a conflict, choose a participating cavalry you control. Send that character home. 2 influence. So this is a bit of a weird one. It is kind of a fix to what a lot of Unicorn players in the Discord think cavalry should have been, or think TPO should have been. It should have been an ability to move either into a conflict or out of a conflict. And this card is meant to fix that. Making every card you play that has a movement effect into a better movement effect. For example, Favored Mount could get the trigger to move out of a conflict. You could have cards like Diversion Maneuver. If you don't want to use the whole effect, you can just move a character home instead. Cards like Honest Challenger could just move home. Shinryu Outrider, just move home. So it makes it very difficult for the opponent to defend against Unicorn with all the move in and move out, which is the way that it should have been, according to many Unicorn players. So I think it's pretty cool actually. It might be a bit iffy rules-wise. I think it makes sense that every effect that moves a character, if there's such an effect on a character or a card, that card also gains that action ability. So I think it's pretty cool. It's also a green horse, which is awesome. Next up is Retained Relations. It's a 1 fate cost event. It has interrupt when a non-unicorn character you control with printed cost equal to or lower than the difference in honor total between you and an opponent would leave play. If you control a unicorn character, instead give an opponent 1 honor. So it's a save, essentially. It's a unicorn save. It has a cost, it has a bunch of restrictions, it has 1, 2, 3 restrictions, so it is a unicorn card, but it's a very strong unicorn card. And it works again around this Gaijin Customs, either Ryoma theme of the relationship between non-unicorn and unicorn characters. where you get the benefit if you have both. Kind of synergizes good with Sean. The idea is that you, as a unicorn, try to retain your relationships, good relationships with the outsiders or with the other clans. That's the idea behind this card, and it kind of follows that theme, as I said, with Ryoma and Guardian Customs, if you want to play that kind of neutral heavy deck. Still, you have to have a big honor difference for this to work. If you want to use it on a big character like Satoshi or Sean, you have to either bid high or bid low for this to work. It's a pretty interesting card. Also, the art is blurry because the original art is actually blurry on the card itself. Kind of weird, but that's the way it is with old card games. Next up is Act of Kindness. There we go. It's a 1 fate event. Action. During a conflict in which you control a participating courtier, you may give your opponent 1 honor, choose an unbroken province. You may only choose an opponent's province if you give your opponent 1 honor. Resolve that province's action ability as if the conflict were at that province. So it's basically Expert Bartering and Keeper of Secret Names mashed into one event. I think it's okay. It costs for a fate. It costs you a participating courtier. It costs you giving your opponent an honor, but it can be used to combo with like Border Fortress. You can reveal an extra province. You can use your opponent's Shameful Display. You can use your opponent's Magistrate Station. You can do stuff like that. And the thematic idea here is, I didn't get to fit the flavor text because the rule text is so long, is that you go into enemy lands, foreign lands, and you show acts of kindness. And then they give something back. You gain an ally in this province, in this foreign province, which is, in card effect, is the province effect. So pretty thematic as well. And I think it's pretty decent. A 1 fate cost for a Shameful Display or a Border Fortress trigger is kind of balanced. It's completely useless with Manicured Garden. Yeah, could get some cool combos with this Act of Kindness. Next up is Steeds of the Wind, the next to last card. Steeds of the Wind is a 1 fate +0/+0 spell made to air. It is non-unique, attached to a Suganya you control. Action. During a conflict, choose a character you control. Until the end of the conflict, if that character has cavalry, give it +2. Otherwise, until the end of the conflict, give that character cavalry. So the idea here is that either you augment your pre-existing cavalry character, or you give another character cavalry to make it gain benefits from the cavalry trait. Like, for example, if you have a bowed character at home and you have won a military ring, you can use Shootome Encampment to stand it, or you can use it to give cavalry to a character and then sack it to HMT. So a lot of fun stuff with Steeds of the Wind. Or it could just be used as a 1 fate +2 pump once per round. So it kind of also plays into this idea that unicorn are adaptive. They have a good adaptability with their affinity to water, even though this card is air, because it's a air horse. Maybe this card should be named Air Horse 1. Oh well. Yeah, so adaptability is a thing that plays into this card. We do see other themes in these cards, as we saw Litany of Rebinding caring about the first player token. That was Steeds of the Wind, and the last card is one of the more powerful, I think. Call the Dead. It's a 0-cost event. Spell Earth. During a conflict, choose a participating character you control and lose 1 honor. Synergy with Our Way. You don't lose any honor if you play Our Way. It is a Death Priest event, of course. That character gets +X/+X until the end of the conflict, where X is the number of characters you own removed from the game. So in the beginning, this is probably like maybe a +1/+1 if you get to remove a character somehow. But in the end, if your opponent has attacked Temple of Death, this could prove to be huge. It could be like if you have milled your whole dynasty and removed it, this card could get insane. But as I said, it needs a lot of build up with the Moto Death Priests. So this card could prove to be quite insane, like giving +20, +30 military skill, or political skill for that matter. It worked in both conflicts, like Supernatural Storm, which is another spell event that gives bonuses. So this has a lower bottom than Supernatural Storm, but a higher ceiling. It also doesn't require you to play Suganya for some reason. Oh well, that's the way it is. So that is our way. The Subtheme booster for Unicorn. It revolves around fleshing out the Ide theme of saving the clan from dishonor, making deals with the other clans, making friends, giving them gifts in form of honor and fate. And we also have the Moto and the Yuchi, the spellcasters, the Suganyas of the clan, fleshing out their attachments a bit more, the Meishido things, and also introducing the Death Priest theme to Unicorn, which I think is pretty cool. We see the Death Priest theme here, yes. So the idea here is that this should inspire other clans to make the same thing. Maybe Nasumi for Crab, we see the Shrine Keepers for Phoenix. Let's see, we have like maybe the Alchemists for Dragon. We have Scorpion, have maybe, I don't know what Scorpion could have. Could have Crane, could have like a specific, maybe the Iron Crane Legion, the Daidoji. I do think the Harrier theme was quite popular in the old 5R. Lion could get more of the Historian theme, the Koma, the Courtiers could get more of a boost, stuff like that. So if you found this interesting, leave a like, subscribe, comment what cards are stupidly broken, like Shiride, or is it stupidly broken? Is it just pretty good? Are the cards terrible? What do you think? And make your own cards. Huge thanks to Patch on the Discord server for making this mod for Magic Set Editor. It's on the Discord for you to download, and download the Magic Set Editor is super easy. You just type in Magic Set Editor, download it, and then you download Patch's files, and then you put them in Magic Set Editor, and voila, it's there. It's super easy to use, it's super fun, and I hope it inspires you to make more cards and hopefully make these kinds of boosters for your clans. So the idea is 1 stronghold, 1 province, 10 conflict cards, 10 dynasty cards. The ratio of those with attachments, events, characters don't really matter, but I would like to see at least 1 more booster of this kind happen, even though it will never become a product because there's no out of clan options here, so not everyone will buy it, so it's a bad financial idea, but I think it's pretty cool. I really like Shiride. I think it's such a cool card. Just the concept of this restriction, forcing you to build a non-military deck in Unicorn. Pretty cool. But that is it for me, I think. Thank you so much for watching, and Go Unicorn!